Hi, I'm Julie Clark. I'm the editor-in-chief of the FinTech Times, and I'm here live at Money 2020 Europe in Amsterdam.
Hi, I'm Roisin Levine, Head of UK and European Partnerships for Wise Platform.
Hi, I'm Aaron Tharamaraja, Head of Europe at Wise.
So let's talk about the last 12 to 18 months. How has it been for you guys at Wise?
Yeah, it's been crazy. I mean, publicly, some of the headlines you've seen is we've rebranded. We used to be called TransferWise, and we've dropped the transfer, and we're now Wise. And obviously, a huge milestone for us is we became a publicly listed company over the summer, which was a very exciting process as well. But I think for us, what we're really excited about is what we've done for our customers. So we've launched in India, which is a market which has so much potential, and we're really excited about that. But also partnering with banks all over the world. So Shinhan Bank in Korea, the second largest bank there, another bank in Switzerland, and banks all over Europe, the US and Australia. It's allowed us to really grow our footprint globally, and that's something we're really proud of.
And what would you say is your key focus at the moment?
I think that's really to do with what Aaron just touched on there, which is this Wise platform piece. So this is actually us basically saying to the wider industry, we have an API, we specialise in cross-border payments, you can use that infrastructure, and that's why we're excited to now be working with Shinhan Bank. That's really our first big incumbent bank player, but we do work with lots of the digital players, so N26, Monzo, and basically do more of those kind of partnerships. So if we can build more of those connections and they can use our infrastructure, we can power things like accounting software, so we work with Xero, we work with mobile wallets like Google Pay. There's plenty more that we can do in that space.
You mentioned partnerships. It's funny because we have a partnerships focus at the FinTech Times this month, so that's quite handy.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
What would you say makes a good partnership? What do you look for?
I think for us, really, it's not being scared of some of the differences you can sometimes see, right? So actually, when two companies come together and they're very different, that can sometimes be the best partnership. So with some of the incumbent players I mentioned, they have a really broad, I guess, pool of customers, and they have complex products and different markets they're handling. But actually, Wise can really specialise and obsess about one thing, which is cross-border payments, international payments, and doing that really, really well. And so ultimately what we can say is, look, use some of our expertise and insights in this area to build that particular solution, and you continue doing what you're doing really well, maybe that's domestic banking or whatever else. And I think that's the kind of key thing for us, and that's the learn really. And I think that's really where the industry is moving, is this kind of like modular kind of banking where you can kind of plug and play using the best solution on the market.
And it's interesting because you mentioned the banks that you partner with as well, which I think people will be surprised to learn that fintechs, especially those focused in payments, are actually partnering with banks.
Yeah, I think that's something that we're trying to dispel, this myth, which is the idea of like the zero-sum game, that if you're a technology company or a bank, it's almost one of you's winning, one of you's losing, and it's not the case. So Wise, for example, like I said, we specialise in this one place, and we can help banks maybe deliver better international payments. And banks can get on with doing some of the really great stuff that they do. And I think it's trying to kind of change that idea that it's always a competing kind of industry. And actually, lots of people are now coming about and saying, we really specialise in this one particular customer experience, we've really got to know it, and we can do the best job on that particular thing.
Really interesting. And now looking sort of at the sector a bit wider, is there anything that you're seeing that you think is really innovative, or you think there might be a lot of progress to be made?
I think maybe some of our partners in the neobank space are quite cool. So obviously we're seeing a world that's becoming increasingly international. So we're quite proud to partner with some of the digital banks that basically help some of the immigrant communities. And so for us, helping them with remittance and that kind of thing. So in the US, there's two particular players, Sable and Onjuno, we recently launched with. So kind of ones to watch maybe. And then quite a few more in the fintech space. So we obviously work with accounting software and expense management platforms. So there's really some interesting stuff going on in there.
Any bumps in the road? Anything coming up? What about kind of the regulatory side of working across time zones?
It's interesting. I think if you look at the banking sector as a whole, like banking over the last almost 15 years, you had the kind of recession and everything that happened after 2007, 2008, and then banks have then had to deal with the rise of fintechs and technology becoming an ever-existing threat to their business model. And what we've seen is banks have retrenched a lot into just focusing, like Roisin said, on what they do best, which is domestic banking, mortgages, loans, especially for individual customers. But the opposite has happened for people. People have become more borderless. They've moved all over the world, especially with COVID. A lot of people have said, right, I don't need to live in my home city. I can go and live in the countryside or by the beach, but earn a salary potentially in a different country. And that's really benefited Wise, because we've had banks retrenching, becoming more domestic, who need help solving problems for their global borderless customers. And that's why things like the Wise platform, helping banks develop their own cross-border network, working with us, is really powerful.
And how would you say that the world of finance and payments and remittance is changing? What's happening at the moment?
Competition has drastically changed everything. There's been a lot of talk. For example, big tech have come in, and now Apple, Google have entered the market and signalled an interest in helping consumers not only manage their data but manage their money as well. And we're really excited to have partnered with Google Pay in the US, for example. So this theme, as you mentioned earlier, of partnerships is going to continue to be a thing going forward. And what we'll be left with, and it will really benefit consumers, is you'll be left with the best specialists in every part of the kind of product chain or the payment chain, focusing on what they do best. And it means that consumers don't have to settle for compromises, businesses don't have to settle for compromises or a bad deal in terms of exchange rates. They can get the best exchange rate, the best customer experience wherever they want it.
And what about sort of moving up the chain to small to medium enterprises and larger corporations as well? How are things changing, do you think, in that respect?
I think if you look at it, so consumers for a long time have always really had an option of where to send their money, but for small and medium enterprises, there's always been a focus area where exchange rate wise they've always got a really bad deal, because the large big multinationals can go and negotiate specialist FX rates with their big banks or have a choice of banks. Consumers can shop around and there's a lot more competition there, but the SME space has for a long time been really underserved because they're too big to be treated as individuals, but they're too small to be taken seriously by the big banks. And we have a dedicated business team that are focusing on this very specific problem, which is kind of your 2 to 3 person companies, your 10 person companies, your startups who have this problem, who have very specific needs because, for example, they might want multi-user access on a single account. They might want a couple of cards for a single account, and you don't really get that with a personal product. So we're really focused on solving that as well.
That's really interesting. And it's funny being here at Money 2020, some of the talks and the panels are absolutely fascinating. Is there anything that you've spotted when you've been walking around that makes you think, wow, this could all change again in another couple of years or 10 years from now?
I think really for me it's been the obvious fact, which is it's kind of playing to what we do at Wise Platform, which is these kind of API players that are ultimately kind of making banking and everything financial services related just more modular. And so the idea of partnerships, it's the theme today, but you've heard so many talks, I think, at this event about the specific topic of partnerships. I think we've spoken about it, Krista mentioned it a lot, lots of other kind of attendees as well. And I think this is the future ultimately. It's not building everything yourself, but it's basically being able to go out to the market and say who's built something really great and how easily can we access that by API.
And what about events like this? What do you hope to gain from it? Is it a reconnecting, or are you meeting new people?
I think it's a bit of everything. Enjoying obviously meeting people in person for the first time in a long time, which is really great. But I think for us at Wise, obviously we're quite famous a B2C organisation, so it's a little bit more us getting out there and saying, look, Wise Platform is available. We've built this amazing cross-border network. It's available now, and people can use that and go beyond kind of just some of the partners we have today and talk to some prospective partners of tomorrow.
And I love the t-shirts, you're very visible.
Thanks. Yeah,
very well branded.
Yeah. We stand out on the conference floor, put it that
pretty
way.
bright.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So for anybody who's currently at Money 2020, what would you like them to leave with in their head about Wise?
I think for us, Wise is, as Richard said, more than just a consumer company. We've signalled now with our rebrand that we're more than just transfers as well. We're about not only sending money but holding money, and recently this week we announced an asset product which allows customers to invest their money in the UK and hopefully soon other jurisdictions as well. So that's what we want to signify, that's what we want to show the world, that no matter who you are, whether you're an individual, you're a small business, you're a large non-bank institution, or you're a large bank or even neobank, come and talk to us. We'll be here to help. And if you have a problem of sending money all over the world, if you're frustrated with FX rates, come and talk to us and maybe we can help.
Thank you so much for speaking to me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Cheers.